All right, so today we're going to be talking about the torque converter, okay, in a diesel van specifically, but in any type of commercial van, and the symptoms that you might be having if you're watching a video, and you're probably trying to figure out if it is your torque converter that's starting to give out, or if it's your transmission or something along those lines. So the first thing we're going to do in this video is I'm actually going to just explain to you what the symptoms are of a torque converter. Not failure, but when it starts wearing down to the point where you start getting these symptoms. And we're gonna go about, well, I'm also gonna tell you what needs to be done to repair it, because unfortunately it's not as simple as a replacement in most cases. So I'm gonna explain to you what I personally had done to mine after it was starting to fail, because I did buy the van used, so that's an important detail. But also I'm going to explain to you guys how you can actually go about mitigating that wear and tear, specifically on the diesel van once again, so that your torque converter can last as long as possible, and so can your transmission. So starting with the symptoms. So the dead giveaway that it's the torque converter and not the transmission is when let's say you're about to get on a ramp on the highway, or you just suddenly accelerate really fast, and then you start feeling kind of like this shuddering. It doesn't stay forever, it just happens. And it usually happens like when you cross the 50 to 60 kilometer threshold. So if you're in the miles, do the conversion. And when that happens, all of a sudden, you get that little shuddering or that little trembling vibration, however you want to describe it, but then it goes away. So that is the torque converter. So that's exactly what it feels like. And you'll know it's not the transmission, because if your transmission was slipping, right, because this is what the torque converter slipping looks like. If it's your transmission, it's a different thing. Your RPMs are just going to go higher and you're not going to go any faster. So that's if your transmission was starting to give out, that's what it would look like. But now it's the torque converter, because you're just getting that little tremble, that little vibration right when you're about to get on the highway or something. Well, that's completely normal for a diesel van. Actually, the reason that it happens specifically and a lot quicker in diesel vans, usually between 100 to 200,000 kilometers, is because diesels produce more torque at lower RPMs. So that's essentially more abuse on the torque converter when you accelerate, or like before you're at highway speeds, essentially. So diesels are meant for the big roads, they're not meant for like city driving. So city driving is one of the things that damages it the most, and so is hauling things, heavy things at low RPMs, like your camper van, for example, because there's a lot of weight that you add to your vehicle when you convert it. So city driving affects it even more. So there's even more wear and tear, because when you're hauling something, especially when you're hauling something, your RPM should between 2 and 3,000 at least, and in general. So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So what does the repair look like? So if it is your torque converter, and you kind of like confirming it with this video, obviously I'm not a mechanic and I don't have your vehicle in front of me. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get a diagnosis. Okay, so you're going to go to a mechanic and they're going to inspect it. And once they confirm that it's the torque converter, and factor in the labor, which is like, maybe around $1,000 to $2,000, like around that range. And if they're good mechanics and they're not trying to hustle you, they are going to suggest that they actually take apart the entire transmission, okay, drain the fluid, clean the transmission properly, and put it back together again. And that's going to probably cost you almost like the whole thing about $5,000. By like, oh my God, what did I just get myself into? And it's like, yeah, I know, it's pretty bad, but this will save your transmission down the line, and I'm going to explain. So the reason your torque converter is slipping a little bit where it shouldn't, and you get those shudders, is because obviously the cogs, the teeth are beaten up. So they're made of metal, and the shrapnel, okay, it's basically ends up in the transmission fluid, because your torque converter and your transmission, well, they share the same fluid. So because of that, they have to not just flush out the transmission fluid, which is honestly something you should do every 40 to 50,000 kilometers. one of the reasons you're going to have to go through this extra step is probably because the previous owner did not do this. But honestly, if you had done the transmission fluid changes every 40 to 50,000 kilometers, the torque converter failure would happen probably a bit later on, and it wouldn't be as bad when it does happen, especially if you really like catch it really early and you have it changed. They might not have to go through the whole taking apart the transmission part. So I'm telling you this so that for future, when it happens in the future, because it will within the life of your diesel, because honestly a diesel could probably go up to 1,000,000 kilometers if you really take good care of it. So just keep in mind it won't be the last time, and you might even be able to predict it in advance so that this doesn't happen to begin with. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to prevent it from causing other problems. Torque converter replacement is not a big issue. It's like replacing your transmission is a big issue. So anyways, they're gonna do this, okay? And don't take my opinion for it. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion. They're gonna do this so that the shrapnel doesn't end up in your transmission and like wear and tear your transmission even more faster, okay? Because like we said, a lot more expensive to replace. And you'll be lucky, to be honest, if the garage can even do this, because most people will not. They will not take apart a transmission. Like very few people nowadays know how to actually take apart a transmission and put it back together and it actually works. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so I'm lucky I have a really good mechanic and they do it at like such a good unbeatable price. I love those guys, but it is what it is. So that's what you do. So to prevent it from wearing down, because now we explained the procedure and stuff. Now the last step is how to prevent it altogether. Well, like we said, city driving is one of the main culprits. But if you are going to be doing city driving, make sure to get it to as high RPMs as possible. If you're doing a lot of stop and go driving, accelerate slowly. Don't just floor it, accelerate, like ease into it. There's that. And then what's the other thing is, like when you are going to be city driving and stuff, okay, or when, like even more specifically, when you're stuck in traffic, slow down, like try to always go at a consistent speed, and use your manual shifter, okay? So like if you have a manual mode in your vehicle like I do, like I'm actually stopping right now because traffic is here. So RPM's constant. So like, for example, stay in first gear, move really slowly. Don't like stop, go like the other people. Like back up a little bit. Try to keep a constant speed and, keep your RPMs high, because you can be like at 2,000 RPM in first gear. And that's a lot better. That's a lot better for for the entire thing. The entire drivetrain is going to thank you for it. Instead of idling in traffic. That's the worst thing. So try to keep the RPMs as high as you can all the time. And when you're driving on the highway too, ease into it. Don't like floor it or accelerate like really quickly. Like always ease into it, the higher RPMs, but drive at lower gears. Like if you're on the highway driving 100 kilometers an hour, you want to be like in fifth gear instead of sixth, because automatic mode might put you in sixth and your RPMs are going to be below 2,000 or right at 2,000. You want that thing burning hot, and that's just going to be good for your entire diesel, like the exhaust system, like everything is going to thank you for it. Around 2,500 RPM constant is the best way to go. And you might be like, it's going to cost more gas. Like even if it does burn more diesel, which in reality, because it's burning properly at those RPMs, it might actually be, well, I'm not going to say it's more fuel efficient, but it's not that much less fuel efficient. But the little bit of extra diesel that it's consuming is going to save you thousands in repairs in the future. So don't overlook this step. But that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. So now you know what the symptoms are, you know what the repair procedure is like, and you know how to avoid it in the future. And lastly, the most important part is do your transmission fluids every 40 to 50,000 kilometers. Okay, most people don't do it. Most people don't even know like that this is a thing, and they wonder why they have transmission failures. Like if you just did it every 40 to 50,000 kilometers, you'd be fine. Your previous owner, if you're buying a used van, probably didn't do it. Like there's like probably like a 90% chance that they didn't do it. So just do it from now on. And like I said, if you're buying it between 100 and 200,000 kilometers, then you kind of know that it's coming at some point.
All right, guys, that's it for this one. If you're building something that's meant to last, whether it's a camper van, a business, or just a better way of living, I'm glad you're here. Everything I use, recommend, or offer is linked in the description. Take what works, build your own blueprint, and I'll see you in the next one.